All right, so good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Keep Your Class Presentations Updated Painlessly with R Markdown. I am Laurel Bellman, and I will be moderating this session. I'm going to begin by briefly introducing our presenter, followed by his presentation, and then we'll have some time at the end for Q&A. Please go ahead and note that we will be recording this presentation, or rather we are recording this presentation, and an accessible video of it will be available for viewing on the IT Professionals Conference website in the coming weeks. So if you would like to follow along with Erwin during his presentation, there's a couple of packages that you can download, and we're going to go ahead and put those in the chat a couple of times just for people that might be coming in late. It's a good idea to be logged into Google Drive with your Net ID as well. And so also, if there is a Canvas course that you would like to send the presentation that you're going to be developing during this session too, you can have that open as well. So I'm going to go ahead and post those resources one more time and introduce Erwin. So Erwin Lairs is a PhD candidate with the Spanish and Portuguese departments here at UW, and he researches the phonology and syntax of idiomatic phrases of the verb object type. Erwin is also the graduate project assistant for DoIT's Research Cyber Infrastructure Group. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Erwin for his presentations. And he'll be taking questions throughout the session as well. So if you have any questions, please put those in the chat and I will make sure to read those out to Erwin. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Laurel, for the introduction. Everyone, welcome. And I hope you find this useful. I will try to, what I'm going to do is do a little bit of code alone and show you both the result and the code that produces the slides. And so before we start, I just want to get a sense of who's planning to code along. So if you do plan to code along, please use the reaction button at the bottom of the Zoom and just type a thumbs up if you want to code along.
Looks like we have a couple people here planning
All right.
to code along.
All right, so in case you didn't see the chat, what I would like you to do, let me start by sharing my screen. And can I get a confirmation that you can see my screen?
Not yet.
Not yet. How about now?
Yes, now we can.
Good. All right, so the end result is going to look like this. And we have, we'll be able to do some things and create some interesting content. But let's start. In case you haven't, what I would like you to do is run this code that I'm going to put in. If you install the packages, then the only thing that you will need is to run this code. You can do it on the console if you want to.
If you can make your screen larger, that would be great. Your window larger, I should say.
If I can
Maximize it.
So
yeah.
Let me then. I'm going to. Is that better?
Slightly. Yeah, there we go. That's much better.
All right. So.
Yeah, you can try sharing the entire desktop as opposed to just this window as well.
Say that again.
So if you go down to share screen, you have a couple of options. And you can try to, rather
Share
than,
just the window.
yeah.
Oh, yes, we can try that. Well, actually, that will not be good because what I want to do is eventually have everyone see.
Okay.
I want everybody to see this window, which is going to be.
Gotcha. Okay. Makes sense.
So
that's much better. Thank you very much. That looks good.
Okay. So just to start then, I'm just going to wait for my computer. So, what I would like you to do then is run this 3 lines of code, 4, 5 lines of code. And once you do that, I just want you to come here and create a new R and RMarkdown front template. And choose front template. At the very bottom, there's Ninja presentation, and then click OK. And I'm gonna go down a little bit on size. Let me know if it's still visible enough. Laurel, how's the size?
It looks good to me. Thank you.
All right. So can I get some thumbs up if you managed to get as far as this? And if you're not, feel free to unmute yourself and let me know where you're at. I see one thumb up. So I'm going to go again through what I need you to do to follow along. I need you to load some packages, and in particular, you can go here to the console and type library sharing, and that's the most important one. So once you do this, run the line of code. Once you have done this, you can go to File, New File, R Markdown, Front Template, and at the very bottom, there is Ninja Presentation, and click OK. Once you have done that, you will end up with this document. So this document is a template. It has the top, it's a YAML header with some interesting options there. And what's what comes after is just some examples that we don't really need. So we can just delete those examples, but they're useful. They provide a lot of good information. So if you are here with me, please give me a thumbs up. Huh. I am going to the truth of the matter is that we don't need all of this. But if you want to come back to it, it will be really useful to you. So what I would like you to do is then my computer froze up. Well, this is truth in advertisement. It's not painlessly. The computer froze up.
Is there anything I can help you do?
Yeah, pray for me, please. Just give me a. Okay. Oh, wow. So all we really need is this part here. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to select everything and delete it. And I'm just going to paste again. So this part here is the header, and it contains some meta information about the document that you're going to be using. I'm running here on the side. Can you confirm, Lauren, that you can see this black background with white letters on the side?
Yes.
Good. The presentation that I created produces this, and I was just going to walk you through some of the things you can do to get this presentation. But first, let me give you some context. And this is what happens to me every time I teach any of my Spanish classes. I prepare materials for class. I make slides out of those materials. I spend some time to try to make it look good. But then I'm not a designer, so I feel guilty about my slides not looking good. Then I have to upload them to Canvas. Then when I'm teaching the class, I realize that there are typos and bugs or issues with my slides. So I have to, after class, go and fix the issues. And then I have to re-upload them to Canvas so students can see them. And this, if you're like me, makes me feel like Sisyphus because I'm just doing this over and over again. And the workflow that I'm going to show you with this package called Sharingen, I think it's a better alternative to this cycle of create content, try to make it look good, fix bugs and issues, and so on and so forth. So this is what it looks like. this is what it looks like. We are working in a version of Markdown that runs, runs in our studio and uses R, and the content all is in plain text. And when the difference is that when we knit this kind of document, before it goes to knitter, it first goes through Sheringen, and that uses some special syntax that has to do with the slides. And then once that is processed, it passes it on to knitter, and then knitter, using a library, a JavaScript library, turns it into slides, HTML slides. And that is good, and you can stay there, and you can follow your usual workflow and upload those to Canvas. But the shortcut that I'm going to show you today has to do with using Google Drive and kind of bypass this cycle of fixing slides, uploading them, and rather just do it one time. So you already install Sheringen, and you have, now we have this blank slide. And because it's Markdown, you really have at your disposition all the formatting that Markdown has to offer. So you could do things like italics, bolds, face, strike throughs. You can do lists, number lists, and a number list. You can include links. You can do equations and headers. All the stuff that you can do with Markdown, you can do it here because it is our Markdown document. A couple of things about the slides. The slides begin immediately after the YAML header. So in this case, you have this YAML header here. And so what I'm going to do actually is show you, I'm going to walk along the document that create these slides. So immediately after my YAML header, I can start with an R Markdown document. In this case, I have the setup chunk that included those libraries. So if you want to include a chunk like that, you can just go Control Command, Option Command, and then insert, and you can just add those libraries there. And then after that, we can add just text. Like I mentioned, you can have you can use headers. And in this case, my headers look like this. Fourth level header, keep your class presentation updated. I took out painlessly because obviously. And then a 3 header for the confessional conference and a 2 header for my slide title. And this is Markdown for a number slide. Here I use a code to include the image of Sisyphus. And here a code to include the image of the workflow. And I have a couple of interesting things to say about this particular slide. So after this 3 dashes, separate slides. So in this case, I'm in the image of my workflow, and the 4 header gets me this line code up here. Then the number 3 header, IT professional conference, and the number 2 give me the solution. But you will notice that I have something here called name colon workflow. And this is following the YAML header where you have a pair of pair key, name, and workflow. And what I'm saying is that this slide is called workflow. And throughout my presentation, I can address this slide using Markdown syntax. And I'll show you in a minute what I mean by that. Another important thing that you can notice here is that if I want to, I can have within this slide, I can have 3 question mark, and whatever I put after that, it's a note to myself. So I want you to move your attention here back to the slides, and I'm going to press the question mark. You can always press the question mark to get this help menu. And in particular, I want you to see that there, if you press P for presenter mode, it opens a second window. It opens presenter mode. And if you open clone, you will see it will clone this window. So I'm going to clone this window. And I'm going to go back here and I'm going to go P for presenter mode. And this is very useful because you can, if I were not doing this presentation the way I am right now, so you can see behind the curtain and see how all and screen number, the next screen, and then this note that I wrote to myself. And I have a little counter timer that lets me know how am I doing on time. So I'm gonna close this. So to recap, all slides begins immediately after the YAML header. Slides end with 3 dashes. You can have incremental slides within each slide if you follow with only 2 dashes, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second. And then you can leave notes to yourself after 3 question marks right before the slide ends. And so I'm going to repeat this slide here, and you will notice that in this case, rather than ending, so this slide is, I'm going to highlight it, is everything that is here. So if you want to add incremental things, you can follow with just two dashes. So take a look at this. So here is showing this slide that you can see on the left. And every time I move forward, it adds the next slide. So if I press one more time forward, it adds this line and so on and so forth. And this part is only visible to you in presenter mode. You can control the way the content is presented. Basically, you have simple options of horizontal alignment and vertical alignment. And you do that using using the pair key, and it works like this. At the beginning of the slide, you put down class, colon, and then you tell it center and middle. And if you say this, and you render it. So it's right now rendering. Oh gosh. Yes. Wow, took forever. You will see that it renders that in center horizontally and middle vertically. So the next slide will show. You can do that for the entire slide. And in this case, the text that is going to appear center and with a middle is, I have two dogs, they're Chompers and Wiggles. You can also apply a formatting to specific text within your slides. So in this case, you're going to follow this syntax. Dot left, and then brackets, the text is center to the left. Dot center, bracket, the text is center in the middle of the page, and dot right, brackets, the text is centered to the right. And it looks like this. So center to the left, middle of the page, align to the right. You can also do a two-column layout. And for that, you use this syntax, dot pull left for the column to the left. Whatever content you want goes inside the brackets, and then pull right, and the content goes inside these brackets. And the columns are about the same, and they occupy around 47% of the total width of the slide. So in this case, I have a pull left. Inside, I have a bit of text. This is Chompers, and then an image of a dog. And I did the same with the right. It has some text and an image of another dog. And that slide looks like this. So you can have a two-way layout like this, left and right. And this is Chompers and this is Wiggles. What's really neat about this is because this is an R and RMarkdown document, then you have all the muscle of R behind your presentation. So you can write code that runs, you can have data that you can manipulate and plot, and you can do anything that R can do. So in this case, I want to show you that you can show up your code. So if you're teaching a class that requires you to show code, you can do things like this. In this case, I have a bit of a code here, and there's some special syntax that you can use to highlight your code. So normally it will all look the same, but in this case, by adding this bit to line 2 to 9, in my results, as you can see, glimpse that line 2 to 9 gets highlighted, and this is the output of that that call. You can also load the results, the the output. So in this case, I just repeat the same call I did here, but in the code chunk, I tell it to highlight the output lines 4 to 5. And in this case, you see line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4, sex, line 5, name, those gets highlighted. You can easily include a plot like I did here. And then in your presentation, and these results are being created on the fly, right? And if you have data, you can show it in table format. As simple as you pass the data, the first 10 elements, put it in cable with format HTML. I included here some useful resources that you can use. This US slide is what you get when you open up the template that we did before. Allison Hill has some really nice slides, and there's a chapter 7 in the book down book that talks specifically about this kind of slides. And if you want a copy of the things that I'm showing you right now, you can find them here in GitHub. You will notice that my slides are very simple, but there are tons of themes that you can use. So you don't have to worry about colors and composition. Some people did that already for you, and you can find a list of all of that by just running this piece of code. So that was just a quick rundown of what sharing is. So if we go back here to the workflow that I said I was going to show you, we just created I showed you some content on Markdown using sharing in and then Knitr, and this create those HTML slides that you saw. And you could, if you want to, just upload those directly to Canvas. And so right now we're at half an hour later. I want to pause and I want to go back to this blank document that we had and give you the chance to play around and create some content of your own. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. I just want you to do 4 things. And I'm gonna write those things down here. So practice, I want you to 1, create a welcome page. 2, create a 2-column layout. 3, 2-column layout with some content of your own. Insert a picture. And 4, I want you to try to create a table. And I think that will give us enough problems and bugs to play along. So I welcome you to unmute yourself and tell me where you are and see if we can, all of us, create this kind of content. I will appreciate some feedback. Where are you at right now?
Everyone has the ability to unmute themselves too, if you want to just verbally tell him.
So I have to admit I am following along and taking notes about this because I'm interested in this process, but I have to admit I don't, I'm not an R person, though I do prefer to do my writing in Markdown. So I'm kind of looking at the overall process and see how I can like customize it to fit my need.
Sure. So let me put in the chat this so you can come back to it whenever you want it.
Thank you.
So what I'm going to try to do now is just run through this myself. So create a welcome page. The idea behind Sharingan is right after the YAML header, you can start just writing down your content. This part here is the setup. So I tend to say, I'm going to say, I don't want to my audience to see this. I don't want them to particularly see the output of it. So I put all of this false. I'm just going to show you the actual content of of the original document that I created that produced this presentation. This in the YAML header, you can include, if you remember, let me take you to the beginning. This is splash page that it creates automatically, and it populates it with these values that I have here. So the title is that title. I'm going to update this with some pain. Subtitle, author, institute, date, and here's some interesting things. I put down here in the output Sharingan Moon Reader. And what this lets me do is every time I click save, it re-knits it. And here's where you, all those things that are mentioned at the end, you can just put them here. So I'm using all defaults, but I like the Middlebury fonts the best. This self-contained, if you want a self-contained HTML document, you click true, otherwise false. The library directory is right here. And the CL equals true is the one that creates this splash page. If I don't want that, false. And if I save this, and I need to Moon Reader, it will remove this page. A very useful default that I have found is the countdown. This will put 60 seconds in every slide. So every slide lets me know how much time I'm spending in each of them. And if you go past 60 seconds, then you start seeing that it counts up in red, letting you know that you went past your time. These are some options that I like. That control the behavior of all my chunks. So I'm just going to copy those here. I apologize. My computer is for some reason misbehaving. Oh, there we go. So in this case, you see the splash page is gone, but I still have my counter here. So I'm gonna go back to my new document and I just adding those behavior for all my chunks. And so practice, create a welcome page. And I can do that in large. Welcome to my slide. I can control for the entire page, class, center, and middle if I want it in the complete center. If I want to end my slide, I go 3 dashes. If I want to create a 2-column layout, I do that using, I'm just gonna help you out here. Pull left and pull right. And dot pull left. Dot pull right. And I can write down here whatever I want. So this text goes in the right. And this text goes on the right. The left column. And I can add here whatever I want. So I could also add a picture of my dog. And I use it with R and RMarkdown syntax. Open parentheses, and then I can just do it with a graphics, and then I can pick, say, chompers. Chompers will go there. This text goes on the right, and I can put, because I like my dog so much, and open their code chunk. I can include another graphic.
And when we've got a couple of questions here. Is it possible to pull code left and pull output of that code to the right?
That's a great question. Let's try.
And then there's also a question. You have to use R commands to insert an image instead of using Markdown syntax.
Okay, let me answer the second question first. You can use just the question is, can we use a Markdown syntax? And then the answer is yes. So you can put a picture here, and it will be images images choppers. JPEG. And that should insert choppers right there. So that should work. As far as the output in, yes, you can, and you will have to be a little bit creative here. So let's say I'm gonna end this slide here. So we can do a pull right. And then everything that you want here will be, in this case, you want a code chunk. And what I will say is maybe here you just put it like this. So just fence code, no language. What you do here is you simply put glimpse. And then data, for instance, and then the pull right. Oh, this will be put left. And in the pull right, here you insert an actual chunk, and you don't include the code. Include equals false, but you include the output. Echo equals true. And here you put down glimpse. That will do it. So what I want to show you, everyone, is the last part of the trick about moving things to your Canvas page. Okay. This step here. So I found out like all my class presentation look end with the same chunk. So this chunk here it uploads my slide to Google Drive. I don't want people to see it. I don't want to give me any warnings or anything. I don't want them to see the code because I don't want that. And I also don't want to evaluate them. So normally what I do is I create this, and once I'm happy with my presentation, I manually run this chunk. What this chunk does, it grabs the HTML presentation, turns it into a PDF, and then it uploads the PDF to Google. And people can read it and anyone can see it. And once I have this, what I do, so I'm gonna run this now. So it grabs the HTML, turns it into PDF. I like it into PDF, but you could leave them as HTML if you prefer. There will be, way bigger files. And this will ask you to authenticate, and I'm gonna press 1 for my WISC ID. And now that just sent those slides to Google Drive, which is what I want. And so I go here and I grab that link. You have some control of who can see it. I don't mind that anyone can see that. So I'm gonna click copy. And then I'm in my Canvas page. I go into the appropriate module that I want, that my students know how to go. I created this. Students will learn X, Y, and Z. And what I do is I copy that link. And so what's neat about this is that as the semester goes, I can add on to this. And once I'm happy, I click my run this chunk. That chunk will create, update the PDF. I have some control as to whether I want to rewrite or append, up to me. But the neat thing is that that link, because it's Google S3, remains the same link. Doesn't matter how many times I update and change that thing, it will be the same link. And so when I'm here in my class presentation, all I need to do you have options here. Supposedly, you can, I prefer to just add, here's the presentation for the class for unit 1. And I just go ahead and insert that link. And so my students want a copy of the presentation, they can just go ahead and click on that link. And that link will be the same. I don't have to worry about changing it, uploading, or anything. An alternative you can have is use the Google Drive integration here. In my experience, it doesn't work as well. But there it is. All right, we have 5 minutes. So I see Fakat on Echo code.
Yeah, this was when we were talking about if it was possible to pull code left and pull output out of that code to the right.
Right.
So when you were working through that.
Does that work for you, Doug?
I didn't actually try it, but I see what you're doing. Yeah, that should work.
Yeah, and what is neat about that, I think, is that you can the Sharingan package give you this additional syntax where you can highlight code.
Yeah, I'm liking that too.
You can highlight the output, and you can highlight the code itself. And there, I'll say check these resources. they go into a lot of detail. Book 7 here, it's pretty good.
Okay. It's great.
And yeah. Well,
Does anyone else have any additional questions, comments? Erwin, did you have anything else you wanted to comment on?
no, I'm sad my computer didn't want to work with me today, but
That's always the way it goes.
but I hope that everybody can see the potential benefits. It's painful the first time around, but the potential benefits of doing things this way. I used this method in my last class I taught last semester, and I have 4 units, and there was one presentation for each of the units, and it was just I updated those links to to Canvas 4 times during the entire semester. Anytime that I wanted to do a change, I will just come here, come down to my document, make my changes. When I was happy with them, I will run that last chunk at the end of the document, and it will work like a charm.
Well, thanks a lot, Erwin. So for those of you, oh, I see a question in the chat. So I'll quick read that out. Do you know if you could output the file as Google Slides instead of a PDF or HTML?
That's a great question. And so the thing is, where's my slides? Okay, so if you want to play along with this, once you get, so the part that makes the slide is this library in JavaScript. But if you want to play along with this, you can, rather than, so if you take Sharingan out of the equation, you can still go to Knitter, and then using Pandoc, you can get some PowerPoint. I don't think Google Slides, but then Google Slide can read the PowerPoint. The bad thing about that solution is that all this stuff like code highlights, the ability to align your text left and right, and all of those things, the 2-column, none of that will work. But you know, there's some give and take, I guess.
Thank you. That seems like that helped the person who had the question. So thank you very much. And for those of you whose interest in this was piqued but weren't able to code along today, we have recorded this and it will be available on the IT Professionals website probably in about a week or so. So you can come back and refer to this recording and you can follow along at that point. It looks like, Erwin, what resource are you putting in there? Oh, just,
yeah. If you want a copy of everything that I did, it's already here on my repo, and you can just fork it and
thank you.
download it. Yeah.
So that does bring us to time. We do have a couple more sessions today. One of them is it's called Community Presents, and it features different campus IT organizations. I know that I certainly am completely unaware of all of the IT organizations that are out there. I've heard of some of them, of course, but I think there's a lot more out there than I'm aware of. So this is a great opportunity to find out what IT groups are out there that you don't know about and might be good to become a part of. So please check that out. That's at 4 today. And then tomorrow we have a whole nother day of really cool sessions. So you can check those out tomorrow. But that'll wrap it up for today's session. I want to thank Erwin again for putting together this great walkthrough of this really interesting R Markdown program. And that'll wrap it up for today. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Every time you talk to me about R Markdown, I learned something, Erwin.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I'm glad.